like, what? I couldn't hear you under all this frizz. What, Raphael? All right, Jane the Virgin, episode 8. So this video, I'm going to do something a little different, or a lot different. Usually with my recaps, I do them in the order, I just follow the episode, the order in which things happen in the episode. And like, I think my last one, I tried to like group things together a little bit differently so it wasn't so confusing. But if you watch Jane the Virgin, the back and forth is probably easy for you to follow. But I just thought if you're legitimately watching my videos, if people other than, I found out my mom isn't watching them, so it's not her. I don't know who's watching my videos, but if you're watching them to get an actual like refresher or recap of an episode that you missed, I thought it might just be easier to listen to or just like cleaner to follow if I grouped it by each character's storyline. So that's what I'm gonna do in this video. If you're out there, let me know if this works. But let me know how you feel about this. But I'm gonna start with Rogelio, and Jane and Raphael are last. So if you want to fast forward, I understand, but I'm gonna start with Rogelio. So The Passions of Steve and Brenda, which, by the way, hate the title. Didn't even understand Passions of Santos. Like, do they name novellas like that, like in Spanglish? So The Passions of Steve and Brenda did not get picked up by execs. They didn't like the pilot. So Rogelio ultimately asked Jane to write a new proposal for a new show that includes all of the execs' like notes and wants and needs and all that. Hopefully keeping Rogelio in it. He later gets upset with Jane because he finds out that she blew him off and blew off writing his proposal to surprise Raf. More on that later. But he ends up forgiving her over a gift basket, and she comes up with a pretty cool idea that incorporates all of the notes as well as Rogelio. So I'm kind of excited to see what that turns into, because it was a pretty neat idea that has a lot of different aspects. Also, there's a cameo from Justin Hartley from This Is Us. Pretty hot. Doesn't really say much, but he's in there. Okay, so Jorge and Alba. As you know, Alba and Jorge got married so that he could get his green card, and Alba's been having a lot of trouble with keeping her feelings to herself and just keeping this a business exchange. And she's really worried because they put a pause on their studying for this interview because of her feelings. And with the help of Zoe, she's able to get back to that. So they go over everything. And I have to say, I had a feeling that something was brewing because of the way Jorge looks at her from time to time. And then, of course, it always comes back to, like, no, it's just for immigration, it's just for the case, or it's just for the interview, or blah, it's just to make it look real. And I'm like, I don't know, Jorge. I don't know. So anyway, they have their interview. Everything goes really well. And you can just tell that they, like, genuinely know each other. It's really cute montage of them answering questions. And, like, you can tell that they genuinely, like, love each other and know each other. And they pass. So that's awesome. And then when they find out that they pass, Alba's like, okay, well, you can go. We can go our separate ways now. And Jorge says that he doesn't want to leave. And he admits that he was just being prideful, which he mentions in the interview. And I was like, I know. And he mentions that he's prideful, and I was like, no, we know, Jorge, we know. And so he tells Alba that, you know, after being rejected twice, he was just like, you know, not wanting to, he was just being stubborn and not wanting to admit that he still does love her. So, yeah, so he admits that he loves her, and they kiss in front of the window, just like Jane and Raphael once did. But I am still excited, even though it's not Jane and Raphael. I am still very excited to see what happens with Jorge and Alba, because she is really just like coming to her own, and she's just like still got her groove back, you know what I'm saying? And I just really want to see what happens with their relationship and in the home and stuff. I think that's really sweet. And I also want to see how Jorge, like, I have a feeling that he helps Jane and Raphael, because he's made some comments about, like, you know, you just don't stop loving someone like that. So why has Petra's storyline been the hardest for me to get through? Holy crap. Okay, so Petra has had surveillance cameras installed throughout her entire penthouse, and the only place that she and JR could have any privacy is her closet. She has the girl stay with Raf so that she can get to the bottom of a few things that they haven't tied up for us just yet, such as the email to Milos from Petra's account, as well as the strange man that appeared in Anna and Ellie's bedroom and also escaped very quickly, might I add. But in between that, she overhears Pammy the parrot speaking on her phone in Czech, and so had her arrested because that's illegal. And no, she finds it suspicious, so she has her arrested, but then later finds out that Pammy was just learning to speak Czech to bond with her daughters, so she gets released, and that's great. So throughout the episode, it seems like Anna and Ellie don't really care for JR. They're not very fond of her. They don't want to go to dinner with her. They don't want to say hi to her. They're kind of always looking at her like, And so cut to when they're back home and JR and Petra are on the sofa, there's a laser. Petra sees a laser on JR's forehead. So that's not funny. That's not funny because that could be deadly, right? So they duck and dive and get to the girls' room and they're safe and all this. But then Petra gets called down to security only to find on the surveillance little Anna and Ellie were the ones pointing a laser at JR's head. And I just have to say, like, what kind of 6-year-old evil master? They're 6, right? Like, what kind of evil masterminds are we dealing with? Like, granted, like, Petra is their mom, but my God. Like, so it turns out that they were responsible. They admit to being responsible for the email to Milos. I'm sorry, 6-year-olds can work email where? I don't care if you could do karate. How do you work email? That's crazy. And then they lied about the man being in their room. And they're responsible for the laser on JR's head. And I'm like, how do you even know what that's supposed to mean? You're 6. You're 6. That's crazy. So anyway, Petra, while you're thinking like, okay, then everybody's safe, right? Because it was these little harmless children. Petra sits and talks with the girls about why they don't like JR and why they're trying to like get her to go away because they say they want to scare her away. And it turns out that Anna and Ellie, in case you forgot, witnessed JR and the whole JR and Milos confrontation where like Milos tried to come after Petra and then JR shot him and then the police came and all this. And so the girls saw everything. They were aware of everything and we just like forgot about them because they're not Mateo. And anyways, so then Petra decides that she needs to break things off with JR. She tells her that she loves her, but her girls are her first priority and they don't feel safe and they're scared, so that's not cool. But then JR offers or asks Petra to give her a chance to try to like, you know, bond with the twins because she admits she's made no effort. So she's like, give me a chance to try with the twins. Petra talks to Raphael about possibly taking the twins to counseling for everything that's happened. I think that whole family needs counseling probably at this point. But yeah, so Petra and JR stay together and yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Okay, so Jane and Raphael and Mateo. So in the beginning of the episode, Raphael is avoiding Jane, and I'm sure you saw in the commercials that Jane like tries to spy on him or tries to like pop up at his apartment and claim that she was just in the neighborhood, but really she's been sitting right there the whole time. And anyway, it doesn't work out for her, as you've also seen probably in the commercials. But Mateo has a book fair at his school, and Jane finds out that Raphael's going to be there, so she pops up. And like while she's parking, Raphael calls her and is like, oh, there's a situation. Mateo had a meltdown. And she's like, yeah, I'll be right there. And so it turns out that Mateo had a meltdown because another student called him like dumb, dummy, idiot, stuff like that. And Jane's like, well, you know, maybe this boy is like jealous, or, you know, she's trying to come up with theories like, you know, maybe he wishes he could be Mateo. You know, I don't know. She comes up with some theory, and the teacher's like, yeah, or he really is dumb, is essentially what this teacher says. So she's like, oh, there could be another reason. He's behind in reading. And it just was weird to me. So Mateo's behind in reading. I buried the lead. But it was just interesting because the teacher, and I'm surprised, like, Jane didn't get more upset, but I guess you're just more concerned about your child at the time, and also it's a TV show. But the teacher was, like, justifying this little kid calling another little kid dumb and idiot. She's like, well, he can't read, so what else would you call him? You know, it was really weird. And I was like, oh, all right, Miss Teacher Lady. But anyways, so they decided to, like, you know, be good co-parents and work with Mateo on his reading. And first, Raphael offers to, like, go over flashcards and stuff like that with Mateo together because they were doing it separately and, like, texting about their experience and stuff like that. So then Raphael asked, like, hey, do you want to, like, do it together? And so Jane's like, of course. Then they're doing the flashcards together, and Raphael asked Jane out to breakfast alone. But it doesn't end up working with their schedules, so like nothing happens there. But Jane thinks like, oh, he's trying to go on a date with me, right? I have to say, I knew there was something up with Raphael's cheerfulness. I didn't trust it because there's way too many episodes to still go, right? They're not going to give it to you that easy. It ain't going to be that easy. So I was like, no, what's he going to tell her at lunch? You got somebody else pregnant? Some more sperm appeared? What? He's moving to Montana to be with Jason. So while Jane is helping Rogelio come up with this new show proposal, she gets it in her head that she needs to do a big romantic gesture for Raphael, and she finds out where he's going to be, and it turns out he says he's going to take photos at like this one property, okay? And so she shows up, she remembers where he hides the key, and she sets up this whole picnic thing for him to say that she loves him, blah, blah, blah. He walks in, is less than thrilled, and then here comes his boss, and then here comes the clients, and it turns out that he's going to be showing the house to some clients, and so then when his boss sees all this, he gets in trouble. They get scolded and asked, or told to leave, and so Raphael is not happy, and Jane is very apologetic, but he tells her that there's no chance, like, why would you do this? And she said that she thought she saw an opening, and he's like, yeah, there's no opening, I'm done with you, I told you I'm done, so you need to move on. And I was like, what? I couldn't hear you under all this frizz. What, Raphael? So Jane and Zoe talk, and this is my I'm not having it pose, because Jane talks to Zoe, and Zoe tells her she just needs to accept it, because Jane is saying that, she loves Raphael, she doesn't want to give up, she doesn't want to leave it alone. But Zoe says, ultimately you can't make somebody love you, and you can't make somebody do what they don't want to do, and so you kind of have no choice but to leave them alone and give them space. Again, I can't hear you. But anyway, it's kind of funny because there's this scene where actually I was cracking up a lot. Probably the hardest I've ever laughed in this show, because there's a scene where Zoe's like, imagine if you were a man doing what you're doing, and so then there's Jane dressed up as Raphael, peeping in the windows and stuff. It was really, really funny. I don't know why I bothered saying that, because it's probably not as funny hearing me say it. But then even Rogelio helps her, because it seems like Raphael still, even after that incident, is still trying to co-parent and just be civil and kind of joke around and be what's the mood I'm talking about? I don't know. He's just trying to be light and stuff with her, sending her emojis and smiley faces and things like that, and we can do this, let's keep trying with Mateo, blah 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 blah. Well, because it turns out, by the way, that he just wanted to go out to eat with her to discuss Mateo, not in front of Mateo, which makes perfect sense, but you should have led with that, okay? Don't just go asking to have breakfast. So the episode ends with Rose's little minion, aka Luisa's new neighbor, spying on Petra and Raphael from his car, and he calls Luisa from the car, he's peeping Raphael, and convinces her that it's time for her to ask Raphael to meet her nieces and nephew. So I'm sure there's a kidnapping coming up next, but yeah, I forgot that she hasn't met them. Anyway, I did want to end this one with a nice quote that Alba had in the episode. It was really, really sweet, and I'm gonna butcher it, I'm so sure, and it's gonna take me 16 tries, but that's okay, we're gonna go for it. So she was talking on the porch swing, right, with Zoe and Jane, and she said that she had spent, because Jane has see Alba, you little. Okay, so Jane walks onto the porch, and she looks bummed and defeated, and Alba asks her, what's the deal? And Jane says, of all the things for her son to struggle with, reading. She's a writer, and she just hoped that her child would love reading and be good at it, right? Because you're super smart, why wouldn't your kid be? So Alba says that her advice to her is that she wasted so much time and lost so much of her relationship with Zoe just hoping and trying to make her be something else instead of celebrating who she really was. And I just thought that was of course Zoe got emotional, because really that's something that you could apply to anybody in your life, right? So I just thought that was a really sweet quote that I totally butchered. I don't know, Google the scene, maybe it's on YouTube, but it was really, really sweet moment. And that's it for Jane the Virgin's what is it, episode 8. Why is this so difficult to not get tongue-tied?